Good morning, everyone. My name is Arafat, and I teach history on the textbook platform. So, in this session, let us spend some time discussing on a very important topic of modern Indian history, that is Brahmo Samaj, that is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The topic of today's discussion, just a minute. The topic of today's discussion is Brahmo Samaj was an organization founded by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So this topic is very important. Many times questions have appeared from this topic both in prelims as well as in the mains stage of the UPSC examination. So let us spend some time discussing about uh, the socio-religious reform initiatives of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy was born in the year 1772 and he died in the year 1833. That was the time period of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So basically, he lived in uh, late 18th century AD and early 19th century AD. So basically, he carried the reforms, the socio-religious reforms, mostly in the 19th century AD. So the whole point which I'm trying to argue is, the whole point which I'm trying to convey is, Raja Ram Mohan Roy happened to be a 19th century socio-religious reformer of India. So the point is, undoubtedly, Raja Ram Mohan Roy happens to be the first modern Indian reformer. He happens to be the first modern Indian reformer, and hence he is aptly referred to as the father of Indian Renaissance. Therefore, he is aptly, very correctly regarded as the father of Indian Renaissance. I just told you he was born in 1772 AD in Radhanagar. Radhanagar happened to be a district of Bengal. The point. And he belonged to uh, Kulin Brahmin caste. He is a Brahmin by Varna, but he belonged to a subcaste among the Brahmins called Kulin Brahmins. Okay, point. So basically, he is he is the native of Bengal. He was born in Radhanagar. He was born in a Kulin Brahmin family. Okay, point. So for the Kulin Brahmins, polygamy was a customary practice. So for the Kulin Brahmins, polygamy, that is the practice of marrying or the practice of having multiple wives, was a very common practice. So basically, uh, and therefore, even when Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a child, he was married thrice. In fact, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was married thrice, and this happened because the practice of polygamy was a customary practice among the Kulin Brahmins. Of course, later in his life, Raja Ram Mohan Roy became a bitter critic of the practice of polygamy prevalent among the Kulin Brahmins. Course of time, Raja Ram Mohan Roy himself became a bitter critic of such a practice prevalent among the Kulin Brahmins. That is about his early life. So basically, he was a native of Bengal, and he belonged to a subsect among the Brahmins called Kulin Brahmins, and therefore he was married thrice because Kulinism. We call this as Kulinism. Kulinism is the practice of polygamy prevalent among the Brahmins, particularly the practice of polygamy prevalent among the Kulin Brahmins. Fine. So the point is, Raja Ram Mohan Roy undoubtedly was a child prodigy. He was exceptionally good in academics. He was also a polyglot. He was undoubtedly a child prodigy. He was exceptionally good in academics. He was also a polyglot. Polyglot means a person who speaks multiple languages. Polyglot refers to a person who speaks multiple languages. Multiple languages. Good point. he did not just speak different languages, he was exceptionally fluent in at least a dozen languages. He did not have just basic knowledge of various languages. In fact, he was exceptionally good. He was exceptionally good in at least 12 languages. And some of these languages also happen to be foreign languages. So for example, he was exceptionally good in Sanskrit. He was exceptionally good in Bengali, Bengali being his mother tongue. He was also exceptionally good in Persian, Arabic, English, French, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin as well. Just see for yourself. The point is, he was undoubtedly child prodigy. Therefore, he mastered at least a dozen languages. He was very fluent. He was very good in at least 12 languages. So his knowledge of these so many languages. The point is his linguistic skills, his knowledge of these foreign languages allowed him to read the text of other religions in their original languages. So the point is his knowledge of these various foreign languages allowed Raja Ram Mohan Roy to read the religious texts of other religions such as Islam and Christianity in their original languages. So, for example, he read Quran in Arabic. He read Bible in Hebrew. In fact, um Raja Ram Mohan Roy specifically learned Hebrew language in order to read Bible in its original language. Of course, later in course of time, Bible was translated into so many languages, but specifically Raja Ram Mohan Roy learned Hebrew language only with the intention of reading Bible in its original language. But why? Mohan Roy was of the view that um, reading religious text in other languages would result in translation errors. He suspected translation errors, and therefore, or to prevent translation errors or to avoid translation errors, Raja Ram Mohan Roy specifically learned Hebrew in order to read Bible in its original language. So the whole point which I'm trying to convey is he was undoubtedly a child prodigy. He knew at least a dozen languages, some of which also happened to be foreign languages. So his mastery over a few foreign languages allowed him to read texts of other religions such as Islam and Christianity in their original languages. So that's this point I am emphasizing because uh, both the Quran and the Bible left a deep impact on the mind of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. I'm specifically mentioning about these two texts because they left a deep impact on the personality of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So initially, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, that is after completing his education, Raja Ram Mohan Roy worked as a clerk in the British Indian administration before he became a full-time reformer. So after completing his education, he joined in the administration of the East India Company as a clerk, but in course of time, he quit his job and became a full-time reformer. So what made Raja Ram Mohan Roy become a full-time reformer? Let us understand those points. I told you Raja Ram Mohan Roy is a native of Bengal, was born in 1772 AD, died in 1833 AD. 1833. So come to the event that is said to have greatly influenced Raja Ram Mohan Roy to take to the path of social reforms. Let me repeat this point once again. Let us discuss about an event that is said to have left a deep impact on Raja Ram Mohan Roy, an event that is said to have motivated him to become a full-time religious or socio-religious reformer. So basically, in 1812 AD, Raja Ram Mohan Roy lost his brother. in 1812, the brother of Ram Mohan Roy died, following which his sister-in-law, that is Ram Mohan Roy's sister-in-law, was forced to commit sati. It was a forcible. It was the point is the sister-in-law of Ram Mohan Roy was forced to commit sati. It was against her wish that she was forced to practice or forced to commit sati. Back then, the practice of sati was quite common. So, along with the dead body of the husband, uh, the widow was also burnt alive. We call this practice as the practice of sati, which you all might be knowing. And practice was quite prevalent in India till 1829. This practice was very much prevalent in India till 1820. So the whole point which I'm trying to convey is in 1812 AD, Ram Mohan Roy, the brother of Ram Mohan Roy died, following which Ram Mohan Roy's sister-in-law, that is the widow of Ram Mohan Roy's brother, was forced to commit sati. The point is Ram Mohan Roy was very attached to his sister-in-law, was very attached to his sister-in-law. Ram Mohan Roy tried his best to prevent uh, his sister-in-law from practicing sati. Ram Mohan Roy tried his best to persuade his family members not to force his sister-in-law to practice sati or to commit sati. So let me repeat this point once again. Ram Mohan Roy was very attached to his sister-in-law, and therefore Ram Mohan Roy tried his best to persuade his family members not to force his sister-in-law to commit sati. But back in those days, uh, people had numerous superstitious beliefs. People back in those days believed that the practice of sati is uh, is has to be the practice of or sati has to be compulsorily practiced. The whole point which I'm trying to convey is, despite the efforts made by Ram Mohan Roy, he could not prevent his sister-in-law from uh, committing sati. So this incident of uh, Ram Mohan Roy's sister-in-law committing sati is said to have greatly disturbed Ram Mohan Roy. It is after that particular incident, Raja Ram Mohan Roy decided to quit his job, become a full-time reformer. So the whole point which I'm trying to convey is, they said it was this incident that is said to have created a deep impact on the mind of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. It is after this incident Ram Mohan Roy quit to his job and became a full-time reformer. And this happened in 1812 AD. So in 1815 AD, in 1815 AD, Ram Mohan Roy founded a social a socio-religious reform organization called Atmiya Sabha. In 1815, Raja Ram Mohan Roy founded a socio-religious reform organization called Atmiya Sabha, meaning the Society of Friends. And this was founded in 1815. And the same Atmiya Sabha was renamed as Brahmo Samaj in 1828. So basically, Atmiya Sabha was founded in 1815, which later got renamed as Brahmo Samaj in 1828. That's the point. So Brahmo Samaj means the society of God. It was through this organization. It was through Atmiya Sabha initially, and later through Brahmo Samaj that Raja Ram Mohan Roy carried out socio-religious reform movement. To repeat this point once again, it was initially through Atmiya Sabha and later through Brahmo Samaj that Ram Mohan Roy carried his movement against reforms. Sorry, he carried the movement against various evils prevalent in the society. Let me repeat, it was through this organization Ram Mohan Roy carried movement against various evils prevalent in the society, both the social evils and religious evils, socio-religious. So, to carry his propaganda against social evils, Ram Mohan Roy founded two journals to carry propaganda against social evils, to enlighten the people against various social evils. Ram Mohan Roy founded two journals, namely, one is Sambad Kaumudi. Name is important, remember, Sambad Kaumudi. It was founded way back in 1821. So this Sambad Kaumudi is an important journal because it happened to be the first journal to be published by an Indian. Sambad Kaumudi happened to be the first journal to be published by an Indian, and it was published in Bengali. So you can say the first journal to be published in India happened to be Sambad Kaumudi, and it was published in Bengali. The following year, Ram Mohan Roy started publishing another journal called Miratul Akbar. Miratul Akbar, and he started publishing this from 1822 AD, and it was published in Persian language because back in those days, number of people also spoke in Persian, and to reach out to people who spoke only in Persian, he started publishing this particular journal, that is Miratul Akbar. So the whole point which I'm trying to convey is one, Raja Ram Mohan Roy founded an organization called Brahmo Samaj, Brahmo Samaj, through which he carried the propaganda against various social evils. He tried to enlighten the people on various social evils through this particular association at the point. And basically, this association was located in Calcutta. Calcutta was its headquarters. And he also started two journals to carry propaganda against social evils. One is the Sambad Kaumudi, and second is Miratul Akbar in 1822 AD. At the point. Now let us understand the contributions of Ram Mohan Roy. Let us understand uh, the issues taken up by Ram Mohan Roy during his lifetime. One, he carried an active propaganda against polytheism. So basically, Ram Mohan Roy was not happy with the practice of polytheism prevalent in Hinduism. Basically, Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, but Ram Mohan Roy was not happy with the practice of polytheism prevalent in Hinduism. So Ram Mohan Roy, he remained a monotheist throughout his life. Ram Mohan Roy remained a monotheist throughout his life. Monotheist means belief in one God. Belief in one God is monotheism. So basically, Ram Mohan Roy remained a monotheist throughout his life. Basically, uh, he was influenced, he was inspired to a very great extent by the concept of monotheism prevalent among Islam and Christianity. So I made this point uh, in the introduction itself. Ram Mohan Roy was he had a knowledge of multiple languages. He he read the entire Vedic literature in Sanskrit. He also happened to read Quran. He also happened to read Bible, and he was greatly inspired by the message of monotheism prevalent in Islam and Christianity. So the point is, the idea of monotheism emphasized in both Islam and Christianity is said to have greatly inspired Ram Mohan Roy. But at the same time, he also happened to uh, read the Vedic text. He also had complete knowledge of Vedic literature. So therefore, Ram Mohan Roy began to argue that even the Vedic text had advocated only monotheism only. Let me repeat this point once again. So on one hand, he was greatly inspired by the message of monotheism, uh, uh, the practice of monotheism prevalent in Islam and Christianity, but he also had read Vedic literature, and he was convinced that even the Vedic text also advocated monotheism. He was greatly inspired that even the Vedic text had also advocated monotheism only or preached monotheism only. So he was firmly convinced that even the original text in Hinduism, that is the Vedic text, had also advocated only one God for the entire humanity. So this was that was one of uh, the point is he carried out uh, propaganda against various issues. One such issue against which he carried propaganda was polytheism. So he was not happy with the practice of polytheism prevalent among Hinduism. He was convinced that even the original text of the Hindu religion, that is the Vedic text, had also advocated monotheism only. And to prove his point that even the original text of Hindu religion, that is the Vedic text, had also advocated monotheism only, he started translating Vedic text into Bengali. So mostly Ram Mohan Roy carried his reforms in Bengal. So therefore, to prove his point that even the Vedas advocated only monotheism, he started translating Vedas. In fact, he translated Vedas and also 5 Upanishads into Bengali. He did this only with the intention of proving the point that even the Vedas had advocated monotheism. This is what one of the contributions of Rama Mohan Roy was. So one contribution is that he carried active propaganda against polytheism. Then he also carried out a fight against idol worship. He carried propaganda against idol worship. I told you Ram Mohan Roy was not just a monotheist. He believed in worshipping of God without any form. Basically, he believed in the worship of a formless God. Formless God. And even this idea, the point is, this is an idea which is emphasized in Islam. So basically, having got inspired, influenced by this idea of worship of formless God emphasized in Islam, Ram Mohan Roy began to argue that one should not resort to idol worship. He emphasized on the worship of formless God. This was his another important contribution. So even he carried a fight against idol worship. Third, he was a bitter critique of a caste system. He himself comes from an upper caste, yet he condemned the rigidities of the caste system, and especially he criticized the mistreatment of the people of the lower caste. He himself comes from an upper caste, that is, he himself is a Brahmin, yet he criticized, he condemned the rigidities of the caste system, he condemned the rigidities of the caste hierarchy, especially he criticized the ill treatment meted out to the people of the lower caste, and particularly the ill treatment that was meted out to the untouchables, particularly the untouchables, that is the Dalits. So throughout his life, he also carried campaign against caste system. He argued that the caste system should be abolished from the Indian society. He was in favor of abolition of caste system. That's a point. Then he also carried an extensive campaign against rituals, various rituals. He held rituals and sacrifices as useless and meaningless ceremonies. Ram Mohan Roy always used to argue that the rituals and sacrifices practiced during various occasions, various religious occasions, are useless and meaningless ceremonies. Ram Mohan Roy was of the view, Ram Mohan Roy basically held the priestly class responsible for propagating rituals for their own benefit. This was the point which he emphasized. Basically, Ram Mohan Roy argued that it was the priestly class who propagated all of these rituals and sacrifices for their own benefit. That's the point. So he argued that there is absolutely no mention of the Vedic of various rituals. The point is, Ram Mohan Roy, he held the priestly class responsible for propagating these rituals for their own benefit. That's the point. So he held particularly the priestly class responsible for keeping the people ignorant about the true teachings of the Vedic text. So the point is, Ram Mohan Roy began to find fault with the priestly class. Uh, one, for propagating rituals, which he argued uh, was very much uh, which he argued was which he argued greatly benefited the priestly class only. Second, he also argued that he held the priestly class responsible for keeping the people ignorant about the true teachings of Vedic text. Basically, argued that the Vedic texts are true sources of knowledge, but he argued that the priestly class had kept uh, the true teachings of the Vedic text away from people. He argued that the priestly class had deliberately kept the true teachings of the Vedic text away from the common people. And he argued that uh, what he argued that it is the priestly class who should be held responsible for propagating all of these rituals, particularly for their own benefit. This was another of the argument, another of the reform carried out, another of the propaganda carried out by Ram Mohan Roy. Then, throughout his life, he also carried an active propaganda against child marriages as well. He was very much disturbed to see uh, uh, girls who are just 7 or 8 year old getting married to much older men. So, throughout his life, he carried an active propaganda even against child marriages. It was his another uh, uh, area in which he carried his reforms. He sought reforms. Then he also carried a propaganda against polygamy. He himself was married thrice, but he was married thrice when he was a child. But later in his years, he began to criticize the practice of polygamy. He went on to argue that the practice of polygamy was not at all mentioned in the Vedic text. He went on to argue that the practice of polygamy was not at all mentioned in the Vedic text. He went on to argue that the practice of polygamy does not have any sanction of the Vedic text. Does not have any sanction of the Vedic text. This was his another of the argument. Then Ram Mohan Roy is specifically remembered for his contribution in the abolition of the practice of sati. I told you the incident that inspired him to become a social reformer was the incident of uh, the sister-in-law of Ram Mohan Roy committing sati. So basically, throughout his life, Ram Mohan Roy carried out a campaign against the practice of sati. He argued that even the practice of sati does not have the sanction of the Vedic texts. What was his argument? Basically, he argued that the practice of sati was nowhere mentioned in the Vedic text. He argued that the practice of sati was not at all found in any of the Vedic texts. So he famously declared, Ram Mohan Roy famously declared, sati is a murder. To quote him, sati is a murder according to every shastra. Basically, he argued that not in one single Vedic text there is a mention of the practice of sati. And he went on to argue that whosoever is committing sati is going against the religious text. The point. So he carried extensive propaganda against the practice of sati. It was due to his efforts. It was as a result of the efforts carried out by Ram Mohan Roy that the British government finally passed a legislation banning the practice of sati in 18. So basically, in 1829, Sati Abolition Act was passed. Sati Abolition Act was passed in 1829, which had banned the practice of sati throughout India. And this was done. This act was passed during the time period of Viceroy, Governor General William Bentinck. During the time period of Governor General William Bentinck, he was the one who passed this particular point. So the point is, in 1829, under this particular act, the practice of sati was declared illegal. Under the provisions of this act, those individuals who encourage the practice of sati shall also be declared as murderers and prosecuted accordingly. The point is, the 1829 Act declared that people who practice sati uh, will also, the point is, the people who encourage the practice of sati shall be declared as murderers and prosecuted accordingly. That's the point. That was basically, this act had stringent provisions. So it was after this particular act that is it was after this act was passed in 1829. The Sati Abolition Act was passed in 1829. That by and large the practice of sati had come to an end in India. So undoubtedly, Raja Ram Mohan Roy should be given credit for abolishing the practice of sati from the Indians by and large. That was his foremost contribution. Then, then in 1830, Ram Mohan Roy went to England as an ambassador of the later Mughal ruler Akbar II. So, not the Akbar who ruled between 1556 to 1605. We have another Akbar known as Akbar II, who ruled in the 19th century AD. So we call him as the later Mughal ruler Akbar II. And this Akbar II was living on a pension given by the British. Basically, Akbar II, the later Mughal ruler, was dependent on the British. He was living on a pension given by the British. So in 1830, Ram Mohan Roy went to England as an ambassador of the later Mughal ruler Akbar II. He went to England as the ambassador of Akbar II. So he went to England to seek. The point is, Ram Mohan Roy went to England with a petition seeking enhancement in the pension received by Akbar II. So Akbar II, I just told you, he was living on a pension. Ram Mohan Roy went to England seeking an enhancement in the pension received by Akbar II. So, but the point is, this journey of Ram Mohan Roy became very, very controversial, because back in those days, the Hindus believed that travel over the seas would result in loss of caste. Loss of caste. So the point is, this. The point is, the Hindus firmly believed that traveling over the seas would result in they losing their caste, and therefore there was a ban on over the seas travel. So mostly the Hindus did not undertake over the seas travel at all, because they believed that once they undertake over the seas travel, it would result in they losing their caste permanently. But I told you, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a rationalist. He did not believe in the superstitious beliefs at all. So Despite opposition from his own family members, despite opposition coming from the members of his own community, that is the Brahmin community, Ram Mohan Roy undertook journey to England in 1830 AD. And this journey of Ram Mohan Roy became very, very controversial. So the members of his own caste began to disown him. In fact, the family members of Ram Mohan Roy began to disown him because Ram Mohan Roy had decided to undertake this journey, which was against the prevailing norms and customs. Let me repeat this point once again. So back in those days, 19th century AD, particularly in early 19th century AD, people believed that traveling over the seas would result in they losing their caste, and hence they never ever dared to undertake over the seas travel. But I told you that Ram Mohan Roy was a rationalist. He he measured everything to the yardstick of reason. He was an ultimate. He was a staunch rationalist. He therefore decided to undertake overseas travel in 1830. He decided to uh, uh, travel to England via ship. When he took this decision generated a lot of controversy. The family members of Ram Mohan Roy, as well as the members of his own caste group, began to disown him. A lot of pressure was mounted on Ram Mohan Roy to cancel his plan to travel over the seas. That is, to cancel his plans to travel to England. Despite opposition coming from his own family members, Ram Mohan Roy undertook his travel to England in 1830. Told you the purpose of his visit. He went to England as an ambassador of Mughal ruler, the later Mughal ruler Akbar II. He basically went to England a petition seeking enhancement the pension received by Akbar II. So the point is, uh, unfortunately, Ram Mohan Roy did not return back to India. When he was in England, Ram Mohan Roy died in 1833. 1833, Ram Mohan Roy died. He died at a place known as Bristol, and his tomb, his body was also buried at Bristol. His graveyard, his tomb is still located in Bristol. Basically, died in 1833 at Bristol, which is a town in the point. So the title of Raja was given to Ram Mohan Roy by Akbar II only. So the name of Ram Mohan Roy is Ram Mohan Roy, that is his name, but the title of Raja to Ram Mohan Roy was given by the later Mughal ruler Akbar II. Akbar II. So that's all about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. These are different aspects of the personality of Ram Mohan Roy. We have discussed the contributions of Ram Mohan Roy in different areas. We have also discussed the campaigns carried out by Ram Mohan Roy against different issues on various issues. So that's all about Brahmo Samaj and Ram Mohan Roy. Uh, uh, in case if you have any doubts, you start raising questions. Otherwise, we will end our session today and meet you in the next class. Tomorrow, we will have our session at the same time. I will take up discussion on some other topic. That's all for today. See you in the next class.